I was 10 when I decided I want to be a lawyer. I watched Liar Liar, and it made me want to become a lawyer. I mean, I loved that movie. I loved Jim Carrey in that movie, and I was like, oh, I'm going to become a lawyer. And he couldn't tell a lie. Because, I mean, he was a corporate lawyer, and he just, they made it out to where he made a living by lying and, fabricating the truth. And then he had to spend one day telling the truth all day long. And, he still won every case that he needed to win, and he did a great job just by telling the truth. And I'm an honest person, and I have the personality that I would think that Jim Carrey had at the point where he had to tell the truth. So seeing that and being like, oh, that could definitely be me. So my parents always said, go for it. They want they want their child to become a lawyer. That'd be great. But no one actually thought that. But I never left my mind after that. I mean, I always thought I was going to be a lawyer. I mean, it went from, being 8 and wanting to be a maid to be, becoming a lawyer at age 10.
Well, you're kind of like a maid now, aren't you? You're cleaning up messes.
Yeah. So it changed, but then it never changed back. And after that, I mean, I just, I love education. If I could be like a full-time student for the rest of my life and never have student debt and have my bills paid, I'd do that. But my second choice would be law.
Do you like to argue? Is that part of it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, but what female doesn't? But at the same time, yeah, no, it was, I've always been that way. I've always been, a free spirit. So, it comes easy. They usually want to hear about how much money they will get. That's usually the first question, and it's the only question I can't give them right away. It all depends. But, I do have a lot that, like, especially when you get a case where there's text messaging and, someone hit someone else because they were on their phone. A lot of my clients want not just to be compensated for their injury and their property damage, but they want that person to learn not to do it again. And it's amazing sometimes that you'll just get, you won't get citations for it. The police may not cite the texter, they'll just, give them a warning or do nothing. And so a lot of clients are a little frustrated on that end on, well, what about, criminal charges or a citation or something for these people? And, it's hard to say, I can't write them a ticket for you. I can just do what I can do here. But, just those basic questions and what to do next. And usually it's always go to the doctor, with or without the lawsuit. That's what you need to do, is you need to go make sure that the injury is not significant, because it's amazing people think that, I'm fine. It's just I'm a little sore. And 2 weeks later, after the law says that you're supposed to go to the doctor within 2 weeks, and you don't because you feel fine, and 2 weeks later you realize, you have a bulged disc or a herniation or something that's serious that an MRI would have shown, but you didn't do it. So I really do encourage going to the doctor immediately. Before we file a lawsuit in court, we go to pre-lit. So usually at the very beginning when you're in a car accident, it's going to start with pre-lit. I work the case from, as soon as the accident happens, through all your, medical treatment, and I basically, start as soon as the treatment is, finished, and you're improved, then I go ahead and write off a demand for you, and I negotiate with adjusters, and we just try to come to a settlement agreement before we ever have to even take this to court. Now, if there's an issue on liability and whether, they deny being liable, the other driver says that it was not his fault, then it becomes a question of litigation. Sometimes when there's serious injuries, we just move it straight into litigation, just because it's something the jury should decide. It's not something that we want to leave in pre-lit.
And how often are insurance companies just willing to agree with you and compensate your client?
Honestly, it's more often than you think, because usually there's a crash report. And when you have a police officer stating that who's at fault, then there's really not an issue of liability. You can't, argue with it. They have to prove their case just as much as we have to prove ours. So a lot of the times they don't have a choice but to accept it. But if they do have any kind of leeway whatsoever in not accepting liability because there's some discrepancy, they'll do it, definitely. Insurance companies, have no problems denying liability as soon as they get a chance to.